Hi, Nick Davis here again, and this time we're going to have a look at the basics of how to undertake a risk assessment according to health and safety legislation in the UK. And this applies to all aspects of health and safety, especially so where there is a high risk, and this includes incidents where work-related violence occurs. Now you may be surprised to learn that the process is in fact quite simple once you understand the basics. First of all, let's look at what Section 3, brackets 1 of the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1999 says. Now this is as follows. Every employer shall make a suitable and sufficient assessment of A. The risks to the health and safety of his employees to which they are exposed whilst they are at work, and B. The risk to the health and safety of persons not in his employment arising out of or in connection with the conduct by him of his undertaking. So in effect this is saying that every employer needs to make a suitable and sufficient risk assessment in relation to both his employees and other persons whom he does not employ but who he or she does come into contact with in relation to his business or area of work, such as contractors, members of the public, etc., with respect to the risk to health and safety. So in order to do this, we need to follow the following 5-point process. 1. Identify the hazard. 2. Identify who is at risk. 3. Evaluate the risk. 4. Record. And 5. Review. So first of all, we need to identify the hazard. This means identifying the hazard and classifying its severity and likelihood of occurring. Now to illustrate this, I'm going to use an example of a security situation where the hazard of being exposed to workplace related violence is very high, including a high severity in that a person might be permanently disabled or suffer a long-term injury or possibly even death. The likelihood of this occurring could certainly be very high. I might be thinking of a hospital A&E where incidents of violence to staff occur frequently. So second, we need to identify who is at risk. In other words, whose health and safety is likely to be impacted by this hazard. In our example, the people who are at risk from this hazard are security staff who are sent to intervene when incidents of violence occur, as well as A&E staff, ordinary members of the public, etc., etc., who happen to be in the vicinity, so both employees and others not in the employment of the employer for the purposes of Regulation 3 brackets 1. So thirdly, we need to evaluate this risk. This effectively means that we need to assess the risk, for instance by comparing the severity of the hazard to the likelihood of it occurring, and draw conclusions from this risk. As a result of this evaluation, we need to ensure that suitable and sufficient control measures are put in place to reduce the risk to an acceptable level or possibly even eliminate it. And this is related to something called the hierarchy of control, which we'll probably be covering in a later video. In the case of the security personnel, this could include measures such as ensuring that they have the necessary means for communication in an emergency, appropriate PPE, and suitable training in such skills as conflict management, self-defence, breakaway and, if necessary, physical intervention and restraint skills. Now once this has been done, the risk assessment process should be recorded in some form where it can be easily retrieved and reviewed. The regulations actually states that in the case of an employer with more than 5 employees, the risk assessment should be written down. However, it is best practice to record your risk assessments in each and every situation anyway. And finally, once the risk assessment has been created, it should be reviewed on a regular basis to ensure it is current and up to date. It's no good just throwing it away in a drawer and forgetting about it whilst it gathers dust. Situations change, as do working conditions, and new staff may be recruited, inducted and trained. So this is why risk assessments should be reviewed at least once a year. So there you have it, the 5-step risk assessment process. Identify the hazard, identify who is at risk, evaluate the risk, record and review. Now if you're interested in finding out about other aspects of conflict management and health and safety, check some of the other videos we've uploaded up here. So finally, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.